let's get set up on our custom. Alright, today we are going to be running some one hunts. We're going to talk about the multipliers and how to get some pretty decent rewards from running that. Now, up until this most recent patch, a lot of people were running a one hunt at Camp Woodwind. They did do, it looks like, a patch on the looping. And so at Camp Woodwind, you could loop the ghost at the picnic tables, and it would kind of get stuck on the corners, and it was quite easy to loop there and very quickly figure out what ghost you were dealing with. They have fixed that. It seems the ghost now no longer gets stuck on obstacles around those tables. It does make it a little bit harder. It is still doable, but it is a little bit harder, and if you're not good at looping or you're not comfortable with looping, definitely not the ideal place to be doing that. If you do decide to do the Camp Woodwind loop, take a smudge in with you. You may have to smudge and hide, or smudge and then continue to loop again once it comes back in. I would suggest, if you are going to do the smudge and then keep trying to loop, I would have your hunt duration set at lower medium. At Woodwind, you should be able to figure the ghost out within a medium hunt. If you use my settings and you have the hunt time set at medium, I believe it takes you to 12.42 multiplier instead of 12.52. So this is my setup. I do have sprinting off for mine. I am not going to be looping. It does take the multiplier from 10 point something to 12 point something, so it is a pretty significant jump. If you're not comfortable with that, you can obviously have sprinting on. You're still going to get the 10.52 or 10.42, something like that, for your multiplier, and it is also really good. For the ghost speed, normal. Roaming frequency high, favorite room change high, activity level low, event frequency low, friendly ghost off. Obviously no grace period, so as soon as it hunts you can die. If it hunts on top of you, that's that. Hunt duration, I have it set for high because we are doing the one hunts in houses, and it is possible for the ghost to be in the basement. It does make it a little bit harder to hear the footsteps and hear the speed of the ghost. With a high one, you have a little bit more chance of it making its way up close to where you're at so that you can get a good listen. So I do have that set at high. You can change that as you see fit. Zero evidence, of course. And then we have zero setup time, so as soon as you walk in the house, it can hunt. On the weather, I have windy. You can do windy, fog, heavy rain, and those are all the same multiplier. I know that there are people that like heavy rain. I don't particularly care for it. It makes it very difficult when it's thundering and things to hear the ghost when it's hunting, and that is what we are mainly relying on here. So I have windy. I used to run fog all the time. It really doesn't matter either way because you're going to be indoors. Doors starting open high, hiding places very high, which means pretty much every hiding spot in the houses should be available. Sanity monitor, I have that off, don't need it. I do have the activity monitor on. You can turn that off if you would like for a little bit more of a multiplier. I have that on just in case I need a little bit more information, if I want to look for a twin curve, or if I want to see if it's doing a lot of what looks to be EMF 5s. Fuse box broken, that's the highest multiplier. We were going to have it off either way. And then fuse box visible on map, we don't need that. So that is my setup for the 12.52. And let's go ahead and take a look at the ghost options. So on the ghosts, you're basically going to go off of the speed when they're hunting. There are some other characteristics that you can listen for with the hunts as well. One of those would be like a myling. So mylings are very quiet when they hunt. One of the ways that we test for a myling in our normal contracts is that we'll put a flashlight down, and if you cannot hear the myling footsteps or whatever sound it's making in its hunt, if they're singing or gurgling or whatever it is, when the flashlight is not flashing, then it is a myling, and then you'll hear it when the flashlight starts to flash. But in this particular custom, we do not have flashlights turned on, so you can't do that. One thing that I will say with the mylings is one of the hints for those is you'll be able to hear the ghost throwing objects while it's hunting, so you'll hear the objects flying around, but you won't hear footsteps and you won't hear the ghost noises. So that would be a myling. Other than that, myling is a normal speed ghost. It doesn't have a faster or slower. It's just whether or not you can actually hear it. It has a shorter range for where you can hear it. Maroys are going to be fast. One thing that I've kind of noticed when I listen to them is the Maroi sounds like it sort of starts off normal just for a couple of steps and then it speeds up. It will have a pace change when it's in line of sight of you as well. The Thay, on the other hand, will actually be the steady pace the entire time. It is faster than the Maroi when there is no line of sight. But the Maroi will get fastest when it has you in line of sight. It does steadily gain pace and it does get incredibly fast. So those two are going to be very fast ghosts. The Thay will sound a little bit faster if it doesn't have you in line of sight than the Maroi if it does not have you in line of sight. The Dio. So Dio starts off fast. It sounds like it might be a Thay or a Maroi at first. It will find you wherever you are hiding. Definitely take a smudge in with you. When the Dio finds you and gets close to you, it will start to slow down very slow. Even with sprint off, you can smudge out of your hiding spot and then basically just walk away from the ghost and then get to a spot where you can loop it. You can loop the ghost around the sofa in the lounge at Willow or around the island at Willow or at Tanglewood. So those are the two houses that I normally run this in, and the Dio is easily loopable. Just make sure you smudge and get out of your hiding spot before it gets to you. All right, and then the twins. So the twins will have fast twin and a slow twin. The fast twin is slightly faster than the average speed ghost, and the slow twin is slightly slower than the average speed ghost. When you hear them back to back, and I do have a video posted with the twin speed compared, but when you hear them back to back, there's a distinct difference. When you hear them against a normal speed ghost, it is a little hard to differentiate sometimes when you're just listening, but the twins will be either slightly fast or slightly slow. The next one would be the Revenant. Revenant is extremely slow, unless it has you in line of sight, and then it will run at you, and it's very fast. So the Rev should be very easy for you to identify. When you hear it hunting from a hiding spot, it will just be very slow. It won't come and find you like the Dio does. It will just wander around super slowly while you're hiding. The next one is going to be the Hantu. So Hantu will be very fast in a cold room and then slow down and actually get slower than normal speed when it leaves the cold room. So the further away it gets from its ghost room, the slower it will be, and it will actually slow down significantly, not just to normal pace but much slower. So that's one way that you can listen for a Hantu. If you decide to lay eyes on the ghost, you can recognize the Hantu as well. When the breaker is off like that, it will have breath while it's hunting, so you'll see kind of that puff of air while it's hunting, if you want to go and look for that to confirm a Hantu. Raiju is another one that has a speed change. So when we go in for our one hunts, we do take in a motion detector and we set that up. A Raiju will speed up if we have electronic equipment set up, like a motion detector. The Raiju will be normal speed unless it's near that equipment, and then it will be significantly faster. It does not slow down slower than normal speed like the Hantu does, but it will slow back down to normal speed when it gets away from your electronic equipment. So that is how we recognize a Raiju. You can also take in an EMF and throw it on the ground if you wanted to. I don't do that because I don't want the extra noise. I just want to listen to the footsteps, but motion detector works great for that as well. All right, so next we have the Mimic. So the Mimic is going to hunt like any other ghost. It's going to switch between all of the ghosts and their kind of characteristics. So with the Mimic, you will get orbs, even on a custom difficulty with no evidence, but that does mean that you will have to take a camera in, find the ghost room, and set that up. Now, I'm not going to do all of that. What you can do is you can let the ghost hunt one time. If you're not sure what it is, or you suspect that it was acting one way before it hunted and then hunted like something else, then you can go ahead and wait and let it hunt a second time. If the hunt is very different from the first hunt, which is possible, then you can pretty much guarantee it's a Mimic. Again, you can confirm that by checking for orbs in the ghost room if you would like to. Everything that we marked out has a very distinct speed difference or something that is going to very much set it apart from all of the kind of normal sounding ghost hunts. The rest of these are normal speed ghosts. Some of them do have a few things that you can look for to help you identify them as well. After the update, the Shade cannot hunt in the same room that you're in. It also cannot blow out a candle or a firelight in the same room that you're in. So if you want to take in a firelight to confirm whether or not it's a Shade, you can set that in whatever the ghost room happens to be and stand in that room and see if it will blow that out. Also, it won't hunt from that room. Now, it is possible for the Shade to roam out of that room and across like the room threshold into, say, a hallway or a room next door and hunt from there. So, keep that in mind because you will be running this with no sprint. So have a smudge ready and know where you're going to hide if you are going to check for a Shade that way. Next up is Poltergeist. So the Poltergeist is a normal speed ghost. It is going to sound normal as far as that goes. However, when they're hunting and they're around items that they can throw, a poltergeist can throw items every half second. So you will hear a significant increase in the amount of items being thrown while they're hunting and how quickly those are thrown in between each other. They can also interact with items fairly quickly in between and kind of throw one item and throw another item, but the twins can also do that, so keep that in mind. All right, so the rest are all going to be normal speed and not have any distinct hunt sounds that are going to set them apart from the other ghosts. However, there are some here that if you look at the ghost, so if you set up to where you can watch the ghost come at you and smudge, or if you go and look at the ghost when it is wandering around, some of these will have some distinct characteristics. So Obake is one of those. The Obake can shapeshift while it's hunting. That does not mean that it can go from standing to crawling or anything like that. What that means is basically if you have a ghost model that is like the tall, skinny, naked model, and it is hunting you, and then it suddenly changes to a very large, the big fat model. If it switches to that just for a second and then switches back, that would be an Obake. They are shapeshifters, so they do shapeshift. The Phantom is another one. So Phantom and Oni are basically opposites of one another. The Phantom, when it is hunting, you can barely see it. It is invisible most of the time. So people refer to that as a slow blink, which just means that for the most time when it's hunting, it is invisible. You cannot see it at all. You can also take a photo. If you want to take a photo camera in and get a picture of the ghost, it will disappear. If it is eventing on you a lot or anything like that, that's a good way to see it. The ghost will disappear, but the event will continue. If you take the ghost photo and you get a 3-star ghost photo and there is no ghost in the picture, probably a phantom. But you really shouldn't have to do the photo thing. It will just mostly be invisible. You can't see where they're at most of the time. The Oni, on the other hand, is the actual opposite. It is considered a fast blink, and basically the Oni will be very visible most of the hunt. So it will just kind of blink in and you can see it, and it will stay visible, and then it'll do like a little quick double blink and then a normal blink and then back to visible. So you should recognize Onis and Phantoms, again, opposite of one another. Alright, so that takes out all of the ghosts that have something very clear when you're looking at them that looks different than the rest of the ghosts. Now, another one that is easy to check for is a wraith. So you can put some salt down, and I usually put the salt where the motion detector is so that I know if it goes through there. If the ghost walks through the salt but does not disturb it, it is a wraith. That is the only ghost that cannot walk through salt and make the disturbed salt. So that is an easy way to check for wraith. Alright, so spirit is another one that you can check for in this type of a hunt. Basically, you'll smudge it and set a timer, and it will take 3 minutes for a spirit to be able to hunt again. Every other ghost can hunt significantly before that. The spirit has to wait the longest. Spirit is going to be normal speed, and that is the only kind of thing that's really going to set it apart for you in the one hunts. So the rest of these ghosts are going to be regular speed. Banshees, wraiths, and phantoms are all kind of the stalker roaming ghosts that will follow a player around. So that is one thing if you're not sure what's going on and it seems to be kind of following you if you move from one hiding spot to another, or if you are, kind of roaming around looking to get eyes on the ghost. If it seems to be eventing and following you and being in whatever room you're in, very possibly a banshee, but also could be a wraith or a phantom. Banshees can teleport to you. They will hunt on top of you sometimes. Not an uncommon situation, even in a hiding spot. So I usually take a crucifix in with me to avoid that being the case when we first walk in the house. So banshees, wraiths, and phantoms can follow you around because they are tracking their target, which would be you. It's a normal speed, and just kind of look for some of those characteristics. Another ghost that we have kind of noticed lately, and I've been having conversations about, is the Yuri. So the Yuri's ability is that it can close the front door and interact with the front door without doing a ghost event. I have noticed, and a friend of mine had brought it up to me, that Yuris do tend to be toward the front door a lot of times, or they event over in that area as well, which makes sense because they have to be around there to interact with the door, I guess. Doesn't mean that that's what it is if it's in that first room, but one thing you can listen for when you are in there is if it interacts with the front door at all, and it's not an event. So if there's any kind of an event and the front door closes, that's normal. All ghosts can do that. But if you hear it touch the front door, mess with the front door, anything like that, Yuri. We can't check for a Jinn because the breaker is off. So Jinn's going to be a normal speed no matter what you do on this. If you have your breaker on, then the Jinn will speed up significantly whenever it gets you in line of sight. But we can't check for that, so that's just going to be a normal speed ghost that can be one of your guesses if you're kind of stuck with nothing to go off of. The mare, now even with the breaker off, you can turn the light switches on and see if the mare interacts with it, but that is their ability. They don't always use that, obviously. Demon, you can time between the hunts. Do a timer if it hunts once. As soon as the hunt ends, if you set your timer and it hunts in under 25 seconds, it's going to be a demon. Yokais, you can try talking and seeing if you can get it to come over toward you. The yokai can't hear you for a further distance, so there is a possibility that if it just completely ignores you and wanders around in the next room, even though you're like, hey, come here, then maybe a yokai. Onryo, you can put a firelight in the room where the ghost is hunting, and it will have to blow that light out before it can hunt you, as long as it's within 3 meters of the fire. So if it's a large room, obviously it could be on an edge of a room and still hunt for you. Goryo's super boring, kind of my go-to when I don't know what ghost it is, because I do tend to get Goryo's quite often. So that is a list of all of the ghosts and what you need to look for in the one hunts for those. Alright, so let's get started. We are going to grab our items. We are going to take a smudge, an igniter, a motion detector, and a crucifix. So let's go in and get started and see what we're doing. I am just going to set the motion detector up on the back of the sofa, take the crucifix with me into my hiding spot just in case it is something that can hunt on top of us, and we'll see what we've got. So that's a deal. Even with no sprint, you're good. So that is a super easy one for us to figure out. And if you're in a hiding spot and you hear one that is running fast like that, then you know. Now, here's my issue. It did hunt when we first walked in as well, and it did not find us. So now I'm kind of curious if this is a mimic that we're dealing with. So I am actually going to go mimic on this one. You can go back in and check for orbs. I'm not going to take the time to do that. I'm just going to go with mimic and see what happens. And it was a mimic.
Welcome back.
So the first hunt that it didn't find us like a Dio does, and then the second hunt was very clearly a Dio. So when that's the case, like very distinct difference between the hunts, you can pretty much guarantee then that it's going to be a mimic. The only time that that's maybe not the case is twins, of course, because you can get fast twin, slow twin back to back. It doesn't happen super often, but it is quite possible that that's the case.
Alright, we're here. Take a look at the equipment and prepare accordingly.
So we're going to grab our same stuff that we always do, just to be safe. We'll take the crucifix in. Throw up a motion detector as well. It is already hunting. I can hear it. It's not a myling. It's very fast. Alright, so I am actually going to let that hunt one more time. I want to see if it's fast everywhere or if it's slowed down. It sounded at the end like maybe it slowed down a bit, so I just want to hear it hunt from the beginning one more time and see. It's eventing. And just see what it sounds like from the beginning of the hunt, because I wasn't really listening. I was talking. We do have our crucifix in case it tries to hunt on top of us, since it just evented there, so it clearly knows where we are. Lots of events. course it's gone in the basement where it's hard to hear. It is definitely fast. Yeah, so it's definitely faster. I think that this might be a Maroi. I don't think it was as fast as they. I don't want to go out and try to get its attention before it hunts, in case it hunts in the room that we're in as well, because we definitely can't outrun it with no sprint. So it should hunt soon. Alright, so it did do an airball event. That means it cannot be an Oni, but it was too fast for that anyway. Ghost! Come here, Ghost! So it sounds like it is fast everywhere, even when it's in the basement or wherever, so I don't think it's going to be a Hantu. So I am going to go with, I believe, a Maroi on this. I do think it was Maroi fast and not they fast. I could be wrong on that. These are the two that usually get me, so let's see. Seemed like there were some changes in pace, and so and it was in fact a Maroi. They is going to be slightly faster than that and just be very consistent in its speed the entire time. So that is 3130. So that was a Maroi. Alright, so let's go in and do another one and see what we get. Again, I'm just going to take the same items, just get us set up, and then if we need to come back out and get anything else, we will. So that was a Dio, super easy for us to identify. Now you do have the option when you have a Dio, because it is so slow, if you're confident, you can go in, get the bonus objectives, put some salt down and get some pictures, you know, kind of get some extra money. We automatically got 2 of ours because we had to smudge to get out of our hiding spot, so I'm not going to bother with it just for time's sake. So we're just going to make sure we mark Dio, and we're going to head out. There's a possibility it's a mimic, but we're going to take our chances. And it was in fact a Dio, so that was another super quick one. And we did get a couple of extra side things done, so that was 4,000 experience just for one hunt. which is kind of ideally what we're looking for on this. Obviously, if you need to spend a little bit more time in there, it is worth doing that as well to get that ghost correct. But we got the DO in one, so that was super lucky. I prefer tier 1 smudge personally. Everyone has their preference. Obviously, use what you're comfortable with and what you like the most, and that goes for all of the equipment. You can do this at either Willow Street or Tanglewood. I know a lot of people are more comfortable with Tanglewood. It is kind of the house that people run the most, I think. Same concept at Tanglewood. You're going to walk in, there are closets right in that first hallway that you can hide in. I usually set everything up just right there, kind of at the curve of the hallway or right in that front area. Try to get the ghost to come to you. It can still go in the basement there as well. Might be a little easier to hear it in the basement at Tanglewood, but same concept completely. You can loop around the island there as well if you need to. I like Willow better. I don't know why, it's just a preference, but I do run Tanglewood as well. I have seen, that other people are running at Tanglewood a lot and taking a bunch of equipment in and, kind of really spending a little bit of time figuring out the ghost. I personally think it is better if you're not sure, if it's something that's just very basic and simple. I do think it's better to kind of just get in, get out as quickly as possible. I will sometimes stay for a second hunt or maybe even a third hunt if I'm just really unsure and I think I should be able to get it. But at most with 3 hunts, you're staying just a couple of minutes, whereas when you're running your normal contracts, you are going in and trying to figure out evidence or try to eliminate every possible thing that you can with equipment. Then you're spending a lot more time, and at that point you would probably be better off just to be running professional and knocking those out quickly, or nightmare or insanity, even if you like trying to guess the ghost, just for the time that you're spending. These are meant to be more of a quick go in and go. It's also a really good way for you to get very familiar with the way the ghosts sound when they're hunting and start to get those ghost speeds down and things like that. I hope that you enjoyed this video and got some useful information off of it, and I am in game all the time. Definitely look for my lobby. So thank you for watching. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and maybe leave a comment. It does help me a lot in the algorithm.
Wow.